I call the meeting to order. Would you please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance? Casey, would you lead us?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Before you have an agenda, I have no changes to the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recognitions. Brad.
Mr. Chair, I would like to recognize all of those that responded and helped out during the crisis last Friday in the Dogie Dome. I do believe most of you did see the GoFundMe page that we did send out on the young lady that was injured there, but there was a lot of people that really did pitch in and help in a very, very challenging situation. So I want to recognize them.
Thank you, Brad. Billy?
I might ask for your help on this one, Angie, but First Northern Bank did donate $500 to the farm to plate program, I'll call it, for processing of the beef.
Thank you. That's good. Any other recognitions? Talkative bunch tonight. We'll move. Visitors' comments. I guess I should look up there. Nobody up there? Okay. We're down to action items, consent agenda. Could I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. In discussion? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, do we have, and I don't know if it's just the first of the year, but I know we usually get quite a bit of homeschool, but it seems like there's more on the list than usual. So I just wondering if we had a number of
these, there's only 2 new ones.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There is no old business. New business, revision of policy GCMD-E, number 1, extra duty pay schedule.
So I would make that recommendation of those changes, and just to let you know that the reason for those changes is because the grant funding no longer will allow us to fund those. So we'll have to look at other kinds of funding sources if we were going to continue.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Revisions to policy GCCAF, Weston County School District number 1 staff.
Yeah. Do we need to go back and make a motion in a second on that? Yeah.
On what?
We didn't move, or we went straight to discussion.
Oh, we did. Sorry.
You took the Brad LaCroix's approach to a public meeting.
I'm sorry.
I moved to approve.
You moved to approve. It's been moved and seconded. Now we'll vote on it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Sorry about that. Now I got to repeat this one. Revisions to policy GCCAF, Weston County School District number 1 staff sabbaticals.
So this is an existing policy that has always been primarily for certified staff. But what we find ourselves in this day and age of the challenges of employment, it would be my recommendation that we look at both certified and classified. So, for example, if you have a classified person that wants to take a year to go do a student teaching or some schooling to help out in other areas, it would allow them to do that. We don't have a lot of takers in this kind of a policy, but I think it opens up a door that might help us as we continue down the struggle for applicants. So that would be my recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded to approve the revisions to policy GCCAF, Weston County School District number 1, staff sabbaticals. Is there any more discussion or any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Revisions to policy AFC Chapter 29 certification.
Yes, so this is just the highlighted revisions. It doesn't really change the intent of the evaluation. And remember, the evaluation was a process that we did in combination with WDE's approval and school board approval. So I would make the recommendation just to approve the revisions as stated in your packet.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the revisions of policy AFC Weston County School District number 1, Chapter 29, certified personnel evaluation. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Blended learning services agreement with VLN.
Okay, so my recommendation is to ask the board or recommend to the board this contract for the 23-24 school year. It is a pilot. It is funded under ESSER. The timing is not good, and I apologize for that. That's my error. But what I'm hoping this can do is definitely help maybe some young people when they face some health challenges and aren't able to attend. It may actually help some of the homeschool requests, maybe not. It could definitely help as we continue to struggle with maybe some transportation issues or people that are outliers. And then we all know that school safety is still a #1 concern. And so this is that virtual option. It is, it's going to be a learning experience. There's no doubt about that. The families that have already contacted me, really, it would bring them more into the system because most of them are either on another virtual program or are homeschooling due to other reasons. So I would ask the board to approve this, and then I will update you and probably learn more about this process as we go. And then I would open it up and try to answer any questions that you have.
Is there a motion to approve it first?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the blended learning services agreement with VLN for $67,500 for the 2023-24 school year using ESSER funds. Is there any discussion? Yes, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we discussed the possibility of starting this at the semester instead of starting it after school started. So were they unwilling to do that, or why aren't we considering that still?
The urgency was based on me trying to learn it And I thought it would be easier to try to get it a slow start. And that way, if it does take more wings in semester, then I have a little bit better idea what I'm doing. They really do feel that the start of the school year is a little bit better. I mean, that is their recommendation. So families that are either in a virtual program, they could make that jump. We're not looking at large numbers right now. I believe the list that I have is roughly 6 to 8 students. And so I think by starting it right now, it would give me a better chance of trying to manage it because of the numbers being smaller. And then my hope is really that those that are with other virtual programs would look at this at semester. And then if they would make that jump, then I think that would help us and hopefully help that student. I know that it's not an ideal learning situation for a learner like me. But I do know that a lot of our young people and families really do like that independent piece where they can do it either on the go, maybe their families are on the go, or there's distance issues or health issues and that. So my thought is if we could get it going maybe a little bit at a time, that would help me in that transition and hopefully those families.
Jason?
Brad, how does that tie into concurrent classes and things like that?
I really don't think it's going to affect the concurrent. Most of our concurrent classes are the agreement with the EWC. These really aren't that kind of a combination. So they would be more aligned to the non-concurrent, non-dual kinds of classes. So it really does not right now look like that would be an issue. Down the road, it could, but they wouldn't be. They're not dual and concurrent, they're AP. So there are some upper level AP courses that they have. For example, there was some upper level math that they do AP, I think, with BYU and other venues like that. But really right now, I'm hoping that some of it can be for credit recovery and then some of it can be just to get kids back engaged. And again, I hope down the road, instead of others that are either with K-12 connections, oh geez, there's a bunch of them out there. Bighorn. I mean, there's several different options out there. I guess my hope would be is if they're coming here for our activities, then they could at least come here for that. And in that way, I think it does help down the road. I think it would fund itself. I really do think that it would be self-funded if you can keep a population of, X number of students in there. Which is not why I am recommending it, but most of these programs, if they are good and they have good quality, in other words, if my student's struggling, I'm not just sitting there waiting for somebody on the computer, that there's, more of an immediate contact, then that service maybe brings them in and then helps them as a learner. Number one, and then helps the district move forward because it is sort of a growing trend. I mean, virtual education is really a big movement in the competition of public education right now. So my hope is it's the best fit for both.
Tina?
Will those kids be able to graduate then here from Newcastle?
Yeah. So basically it's a virtual school within a school. Same attendance, same graduation requirements, all those kinds of things. So weekly, I would get a report on Tina and I would know, is Tina making progress towards those classes? And if she's not, and maybe, there's 3 days where you don't log on, then that's where I would reach out as the quote building principal to say, if this is what you want to continue to do, you have to do that. The other thing I would tell you is if a student does not log on for 10 consecutive days, then it's no different than the student that is not in the seat 10 consecutive days. They cannot be on the ADM, ADA count for the district. So it's the 3, 5, 8 marks that we already have in the district with our attendance policy and everything that would follow through. But 10 consecutive is no different than 10 consecutive days of our students that are sitting within our buildings.
Jason?
So then that would have to follow our handbook guide and all of that then.
They are a virtual student of Weston 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So everybody in this district has plenty on their plates right now. Do you believe we have the capacity to administer this program, whatever it takes?
I believe that the old dog needs to learn a new trick. And so I'm not really asking anything of anybody more, except I would tell you, for example, Marin will have to align their classes with a wiser number. Is that right? So there will be some behind the scene paperwork so that the transcript, i.e. matches up. But I'm hoping that for the first time, I can take that on and then maybe evaluate that again, like at Christmas, see if there is some more interest. And if it would grow, then I think we would have that conversation at that time. But right now it's 10 elementary license, 10 middle school, 10 high school.
Okay. And also then why did you choose this program over ones like, say, K-12? And is this considered a vendor thing? Is this something that we need to put out to bids and then look at?
So in looking, my understanding is we really don't have to go out to bid. Okay. I was going off of what other parents had told me they didn't like about other kinds of virtual programs. And so this is sort of the maiden voyage of a new one. It is used in the state, I believe, out of Wapiti, which is the boys' school. They spoke highly of it. After you approve it, it would be contingent that WDE would also approve it under Chapter 41. Did I get that right? Anyway, it's the virtual school. But no, that paperwork is going to be contingent on board action tonight.
Okay, and then it's my understanding there will be a virtual handbook for students. Is that correct?
There will be a virtual handbook coming if you approve.
Okay.
Same reason that there's a policy later, and it'll be on 3 readings.
And so the attendance, all of the disciplinary action, all that will be covered in the virtual handbook for students.
It's got to align to our handbook, and that's what Nick was working on with the virtual policy, which is 2 more items down, is that alignment piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of questions about that when we get to that. Thank you.
Jason?
And I think you already answered it, Brad, but so that'll fall on the building principals to keep track of if the student's not up with the grades, or who does that fall on?
It falls on me.
So we'll get an email or something. So
I will get a weekly report.
Okay.
Yep, on each individual student that is enrolled.
Okay.
Sean?
Tell me if I'm reading this right. So we pay full tuition's $3,500. So, and if the kid goes and then he drops out in the 3rd quarter, we don't get reimbursed from that from the state. Is that how that works?
We can no longer collect ADM if they're not a student with us. So they would be a quote dropout. So we can't receive funding for students that are not receiving services.
Okay, so do we have to pay that? Is it a fee up front?
I will pay the fee up front, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
and then if they do drop out, let's say they went half the year, we get half our money back. Is that how that?
We could only get the ADM for that portion. Let's see. So help me, it's only the number of days in attendance, I believe is how that reads. I believe. No different than if, let's say a student that would start with us and simply transfer to Alaska, that funding stops that day that transfer happens, whether it be full, partial, or whatever. And right now, and this is a fiscal, there is some, there's a catch here. So you are going to pick up as a district $15,000 for the ADM. You're only going to pay $3,500 out. But this isn't a money-making venue. But I will tell you that you will hear from some people that, the only reason you're doing this is because you're making money. No, in fact, I really think your best bet for an education is to be here. However, I do realize that there are those concerns that I mentioned earlier that have to be addressed. And this is starting to become an option that a lot of families like to exercise. And so looking at the program, we looked at two others. I think this is a better fit than others. I would only tell you after about 4 or 5 months and talking to students and parents, would I really be able to truly evaluate the situation? And truly, a couple of the parents have been in virtual opportunities, so they do have a comparison. It's not that this is going to be their maiden voyage either. And we'll have to watch that. And if this isn't the program, maybe it's a 1 year and done. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's another program. I don't know. But I do know that, safety is still a concern for a lot of people. I don't know if this really would attract homeschool parents, but I think it might be attractive for others that are in virtual programs. Because I think there's two different messages there, or two different needs.
Dana?
Sean, you used the word refund. So were you talking about getting a refund from the virtual school company if a student drops out a semester, not the ADM?
No, you do not get that run. No, you don't get that money back. Once they sign that contract and that agreement, we've made that, because they're going to have staffing that are tied to that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Jason?
Is my understanding.
So you said you'll get a weekly report. So if they're involved in athletics or FBLA or something, how are the coaches going to get that?
So I would work at the high school. I will work with Bryce, because Bryce does the eligibility. Tyler does the eligibility at the middle school. The other new piece to this is now, I just received the letter, and I want to say it's 4-H has the same kind of a new requirement for students that are participating to have an attendance record as well.
Okay.
So that's my hope. I don't know, as we speak, I don't know a lot of them right now that are in activities or seeking the activity piece. I really think they like the flexibility of being at home and working independently.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know if you can speak to it. I was just perusing this and it talks about the special needs students. Is that going to be something you think we could utilize, or would that put more burden on our special?
All of these programs really do not encourage or try to look at the student on a 504 or an IEP because of the needs of that student. Now, they're not excluded, but they do need to know, going up front, that they definitely don't have the systems of support that you would have day to day in the classroom. However, if you had a really unique family situation and supports, maybe it does work. I'm leery of that, and I would think most people are leery of that. but it does not automatically exclude them. Truly, it is that school within a school kind of a fit. Hey, we've tried this, maybe this isn't working. Again, I think the health one just speaks for itself. I mean, if you're not able to be in a public setting because of health situations, this probably would be ideal. Distance, two families, actually three, really are worried about the amount of distance that they travel. I know Troy's here and he can speak to this. I have not yet heard from a lot of young families with little ones that, maybe the bus trip is too long, but if that does come up, that could be an issue. The ongoing COVID, that still is there as well. So there's individual variables and we'll look at it on an individual basis. I do know one student at the high school, it's a peer thing. I mean, he really does not feel that he has friends here. He likes the idea of working independently. And I think he's going to use it as a springboard to possibly graduate early. More power to him if that's what he would like to do, but really probably not the norm in even these kinds of programs. But if the family wants to give it a whirl, I think we could try to accommodate that and see if it works. It is a pilot. I'm sure that as we go, we will all learn a little bit more. There will be some concern amongst staff. What happens if 20 kids leave my classroom because they don't like me and they do the virtual? That's really not what we're looking at here. But I would tell you that one of the things that I just found out today, that if you are looking at certain colleges, they are insisting that you have not one foreign language, but 2 foreign languages. We don't offer 2 foreign languages. So for a period of the day, we could actually expand a foreign language opportunity other than Spanish, not to take away from the Spanish. And again, I think we have to be cautious of these, but there will be some teacher concern as well.
Any other questions? Joe?
In here, it's talking about hard copy course material, $75. Is that to us or to the students?
I believe right now that is something that we could use ESSER money for. So it is an educational resource, I think is how they would refer to that. And so it would be at our discretion. You could actually have that fee go to the individual student's family, or we could pick it up in ESSER. I would say right now with the way the ESSER works in a pilot program, I would like to explore that, because if it's a good option, I would like to know that. And if it's a bad option, I'd like to know that as well. So down the road, we can better coach families on what those resources are.
And then there's also about delivery equipment, and I think it's a fancy way for saying computer by what it looks like.
And my understanding is they will be using our computers. There may be for certain classes some lab stuff that could be needed. They talked about some kind of a tablet for biology or something that would just go with that course. I don't think it's a device that we use. In fact, I know it's not a device that we use. Bo knows more about that than I.
It stays under ours because we have our program and everything else. They get a tablet from somebody else. We can't really abide by SIP and FERPA saying, hey, we're protecting these kids. I know the tablet I give them, we are. But if it comes from the outside, I can't promise that makes sense.
And the other benefit is if they would happen to lose something or, have an issue with our sources here, we have people that can help. If we had to always rely on somebody else, I don't think that would be very beneficial, because really when that thing doesn't work, it's no different than your car that works great and we're all happy, but the day it doesn't start and we're not happy.
Jason?
Do we have 30 potentially extra laptops and enough to accommodate if we did do the full? Okay.
If it gets really big, we can start working into the budget where I order more, but as of right now, we can.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carried.
But when you're not transparent about it, it feels like you have something to hide. And if you would have just put this out into the sunlight, then all of this wouldn't have been an issue at all. And that's probably one of the most frustrating things is these, and we're not trying to invoke that. We're not trying to create that situation. We're just trying to do our job to make sure that people have that, clear, correct, verified information and make sure that, there isn't anything that needs to be told.
I can't count how many times I've had to have that conversation through our lawsuit with the commissioners, through the issues we've had with our police department in Newcastle multiple times. I've had that conversation. Like, we can stop this while it's a snowball before it becomes a snowman.
Classified recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I would recommend to you Michael Lange as a bus route driver pending a background check. I'm not really sure how he says that last name. Oh, good. I'll be the only one that massacres it tonight. How about we'll go with Michael?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation of Michael, I'm going to say just Lang, as a bus route driver pending a background check. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Classified recommendation.
Okay, so this is sort of hopefully the last key piece to the restructuring of the district office. And so I would recommend to the board Grace Coy as accounts payable / admin and to help out with duties as assigned in the district office.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Grace Coy as accounts payable and admin and anything else that may be assigned to her in the district office. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations. Maybe. No. Virtual education policy on first reading.
Okay, so one of the stipulations that we need to work through is, again, we have to have the MOU and everything approved by the Department of Ed. But one of the things we also have to have in place is the virtual ed policy. So this is the first reading. I'm sure there's going to be some questions. And I apologize for the lateness of this because it did come in the last minute. But with that, I would ask the board to approve the policy on first reading.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the virtual education policy on first reading. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, under definitions, under eligibility, students and their guardians should demonstrate a clear understanding of the virtual education environment, including technological, time management, self-motivation requirements. How will they demonstrate that? Will we have a form they can fill out? I feel like that is so nebulous and gray that at this point, the way the policy is written, all they have to do is go, yeah, I understand.
I would say that, that's a good question. To me, I think it really is making sure that people realize that, you have to be pretty motivated. You have to have some pretty good skill sets. And I would think you'd have to have some pretty good family supports. I go back to the experience that we had with COVID. Those that struggled primarily because they didn't have those kinds of skill sets, or let's face it, it was just simply motivational. And I don't like dojo. Was that the name of that blessed thing? And so, I would much rather be in the public setting. Well, you need to know that up front, that this is a pretty unique kind of service. I think it's a unique opportunity. And when you sign that agreement, you have to understand that there's going to be some challenges in front of you in that arena. I would not, i.e. Mr. Tech, that would be one of the biggest fallbacks for me, because I don't possess those tech skills to help myself, let alone help somebody else really navigate that. So, even their teachers, they're really tech savvy kinds of people, no different than some of ours. Some of our teachers did really, really well with the COVID experience and delivery, and some that just wasn't their wheelhouse. So yes, it's open-ended, but I think the intent is that they realize that that's what they're getting into.
So is there, are you planning on having a list of things that they need to look through and to help them understand that before they sign?
Yeah, I think, I'm hoping between the video series and some of the PR stuff that we put out there that's covered. But that's a good, I'll have to check that.
Okay. And then under teacher qualifications, we have teachers should undergo additional training focused on virtual teaching methods and technology tools. So it's like we're telling them what their teachers should be doing. So are we going to ask them to provide the qualifications and the continuing education related to virtual education that their staff has?
So it's my understanding that they have to have the same certifications and ongoing training. I think the intent of that is when the student and the parent evaluates the service of the teacher rendered, that would trigger the ongoing staff development on their end. Or we could say, this teacher has been very difficult for our kids in the past. Maybe that's not the option we want to exercise. But they have to be Wyoming certified teachers, and they have to meet the same criteria.
Okay, I was also concerned about student responsibilities. Ensure a reliable internet connection and the necessary hardware, software for virtual education. So to me, that belongs under student parent responsibilities. But I don't know. Legally, I don't know. That just sort of bugged me. And then that they will communicate technical difficulties, but it doesn't list with whom they should communicate that with. Will they have a specific person to contact with? They
will have a tech support guy very similar to Bo. So if something isn't working,
backup. If there's,
I really don't think that would be our backup. It would be would be something on their end, and especially if it was a connectivity at a house issue. Let's face it. If you don't have the connectivity there, virtual ed is not going to be something that you can exercise.
Okay. And then, is there a point at which a student not doing well in this environment be asked to return to in-person or strongly suggested?
So then you're into those options. So they could always go do something else. They could always return to us. But they can exercise that at that time. But if they demonstrate that they cannot meet the agreement, then by law, then they're still our students. So then they have to come to our school. However, we do know there are other options out there. I mean, they could choose another virtual program, they could homeschool, and if they're 16 or older, they could actually drop out, which is none of those that I like. But yeah, it would be the same thing for I even looked at this, let's say for a student that down the road that we might end up in an expulsion. This could be a option that we could offer. They could always decline. And we could say, if you want to stay with Weston 1, here is an option. If you choose not to, then you would be done. We would exercise, or the board would exercise whatever they choose for the length of that disciplinary action. So it could be actually exercised in there. Again, a lot like the school within a school used to be years ago. The difference is this is K-12.
Okay, and one final question, and this is what I really think needs changed in here. Under review and revisions, we talk about we will develop a virtual education handbook for this next specific year. I do think we should probably be adding and every succeeding year that this is in place. But also, I think that we need to make sure in the policy that the parents and students will review the handbook, the virtual handbook, and the district handbook for students and agree to those, sign and agree to those.
I will have Nick look at that tomorrow morning.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? We're on first reading. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're down to reports. Sonia, you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I really don't have anything new to report. Start of the year, I mean, kids are back, so staff workshops and planning time went extremely well, and it was full, so that's good. And we can look forward to kicking off next week is a starting of our assessment window. So we'll be gathering some data and information just to, I guess, ensure that we are providing the right supports and enrichments for students. So we'll be gathering those and bringing that to you.
Okay.
So,
any questions for Sonia? Thank you.
Thanks.
Troy, you want to go?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Jason.
I guess, Sonia, going back to the virtual, I would assume you've gone through their curriculum and made sure it aligns with what we like to teach.
No. So, I mean, they will claim that out of their things that it aligns to the Wyoming state standards, just as the teachers have to be Wyoming certified. But no, we have not gone through and said, yep, we like this. No, we don't like this. Like, that's not part of that agreement. So no, we don't get to pick and choose, is my understanding. It is their program, and they run it with their staff to ensure what we're doing. So I think that's what Mr. LaCroix was referring to as definitely a pilot to see, is it indeed still high quality instruction? Does it indeed align to standards? One thing that we will have for students who are eligible to do state testing, they will be our students doing state testing. We will have to work with the virtual education school to make sure those students are tested. And I mean, those scores will be ours. So.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
No.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I assumed, and I probably should not assume, that WDE's approval of them to be here means their standards align with state standards, and we know our standards align with state standards. Is that we don't know, or?
I mean, yes. So I think that's part of their process is that there's different criteria that would fall under the virtual ed that they would have to check off on. I know some of the past companies that we looked at, just how they were structured and what the options were. Some of those choices that parents could choose between as far as just for an idea. And that's not necessarily this program I'm talking about. So just know that like I might have as a parent XYZ choices for my second grade student to or my second grade child to utilize for math. So which one X, Y, or Z am I going to utilize? Some of those different programs that are eligible, I would say, are more adaptive. So they may or may not distinctly align to second grade standards the entire time, just based on how that program is set up. So yes and no, I would say, depending.
Jason?
Well, and I guess that goes back to, like I was saying, and I'll use the term Common Core math. Are they going to offer that where our district may not agree with that style of math, but yet that's what they're offering, or even go into, some of the sex ed type stuff that other school districts across the country are using that we may not agree with, but yet this program may be teaching that. So how do we know what they're offering then?
Right. Where we don't get to choose what that is, like that's where we compromise a little bit.
Okay.
Potentially,
So I would give you an example in sex ed. We still offer the Dobson series for those that want to work independently, even within our four walls here. So they don't have to go through the class with the other kids. They can work through that individually. But truly, the curriculum and the background stuff and all that has to align with the WDE. Resource-wise, I don't think we control that. Again, this is a choice thing. I think that's part of where you sort of roll the dice with the virtual ed. Now, do I think that they would go out of bounds with that? My hope is not, but I have that same hope for our teachers here. Opening day statement to my new staff was this: do not put me in a spot where I cannot defend you, because I won't.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, there is no Common Core math. The math standards that Wyoming adopted were similar to the Common Core state standards. So an example of a Common Core state standard is a kindergartner will be able to count from 0 to 100 by whole numbers by the end of the year. A fourth grader will be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide single-digit numbers by the end of the fourth grade year. The curriculum we choose to meet those, we choose here in this district. There is no Common Core teaching program. So, and that's been a misconception since the beginning of the discussion about Common Core state standards, because Wyoming also uses Common Core of knowledge and in the statutes, and that all has gotten mixed up in a pot, and they're very different things. So some states may have taken on a curriculum from elsewhere, but we're very lucky because each district in Wyoming decides its own curriculum, and there are lots of people who still don't understand that either. So I just wanted to be really clear, and I didn't know if you guys knew the difference in that. So thank you.
Thank you, Tana. Any other questions for Sonia? Thank you, Sonia. Troy, you want to go now? He's got his own mic back there.
No, I really don't have anything unless you guys have any questions for me.
Jason?
I guess how's the new schedule working? I know thus 2 days, 3 days in.
it seems to be going okay. Is this working? I can't tell if it is or not.
Is it working?
Okay. Okay. So anyway, I mean, yeah, we combined those 9 and 13s one route and 11 and 12 one route. So it's been, I guess, for the first 2 days what we expected. The only thing that is different is beginning of the year, the kids are getting out a little later at the elementary school, so that's costing us a little bit of time. But other than that, I think everything's going all right so far.
Okay. Any other questions for Troy? Thanks, Troy. Angie?
So the WDE has released the 100A. It was recertified with instructions. So that was late Friday afternoon. So I'm done with payroll now. So I will start working on that. It's due September 8th. So we'll get that done. And also we received the check today from First Northern. So we'll get that deposited for the processing. So, thank you.
Any questions for Angie? Thank you, Angie. Teresa, you want to go now or you want to wait?
I don't really have anything. She had questions for me.
Thank you. Bo?
See, unless you have any questions for me.
None? Casey?
All right. Thank you. I do have some stuff. So first I was asked to provide a list of all the student council members. So I have that for you all. So start off with the executive council. There's myself as president, Andrea Garcia as vice president, and Amelia Lichtenberger as secretary. For the senior class, there's Taylor Crinklaw as president, Amisha Cummings as vice president, Carla Wolf as secretary, Ken's Rose as historian, Thomas Perot as a representative, and Abel Williams as a representative. In the junior class, Ivy Bow is the president, Haley Beestrom, vice president, Celine Ramore as secretary. Sophomores, there's Presley Fitzwater as the president, Callie Christensen as vice president, Bryn Kilby as secretary, and Sydney Peterson as a representative. And finally, freshman class, there's John Sandrini as president, Ridge Checketts as vice president, Addie Bergstrom as secretary, and Scotland Hildebrandt as a representative. So that is our current student council. The juniors are lacking a little bit in representation. They have the smallest size, but I think they can get things done. So we had 2 meetings last week. We had an executive meeting just talking about what our basic plans are and how we're going to run things. And that went well. And then we had a barbecue this Saturday or Sunday, sorry, that we just brought up ideas basically. Primarily homecoming we're talking about is the big worry right now. So just bringing up ideas for that. We have a meeting scheduled the 31st for next week, and then a meeting that following Thursday, just again talking about homecoming. Plans are going well. No forks in the road right now. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. We can provide a good homecoming and then work on future projects from there. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Casey?
I missed the barbecue memos.
Thank you, Casey.
Of course.
Paul, did you have something you want to?
Well, Mr. Chairman, you told me to be quick, so I will say if none of you have been through your public officer training yet, buckle up because it is an experience. It's an 8-hour training course that I will never get back in my life. It gets really old when the trainers have to backpedal and restate what they've claimed as fact as not fact. I really hope that the state legislature does something, because this is an absolute waste of everyone's time. And it is required by law. I don't know how we are expected as public officials to be required to be trained by people that have no idea what they're talking about. And it was proved out today. So I'm going to be calling my representatives and voicing my concerns and opinions on it. Not that it'll do any help, but maybe if enough of us do, it might make a dent. Because when you're being told something is in statute and they take a 10-minute break and come back and say, no, we've discussed it with the lawyers, we were wrong, you were right. That's an absolute waste of our time. And I can honestly say that I did not take anything away from the training except a complete distaste and distrust for the entire process. So that is my report to this board, and I just hope that you all have a better experience than I did. And this isn't just me. I made sure to ask everyone in the room before I left for a consensus among the group, and the consensus was we were glad that we didn't break the video screen with a chair during the presentation. So cooler heads prevailed. We got through it, but it was not pleasant. It was not enjoyable. And I honestly feel like I'm dumber for sitting there. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, Brad.
I had just confusion. I thought it was only mandatory for those that were appointed, not elected. Am I missing something?
We were told today, and this was one of those things that the conversation changed as we went along. We were told it was appointed. Then we were told, well, it's anybody that is appointed or elected that deals with public funds. And before the end of the training, we were told it was appointed, elected, and anybody like secretaries or clerks that deal with handling public funds. So that's what we were told today. Now, as things are changing in flux during training, I don't know. But it was very interesting to see. I asked several other people as we were sitting there with our jaws open. I said, is it just me or is this changing as we go? And they said, that's the third change we've all heard today. So once again, I realize that this is new, but that's what we were told today. So your question is well founded, because that's what I thought originally, but no, we were told that this was designed for any public officer that deals with public funds, whether it be a county commissioner, a school board member, anybody but legislators who are elected, basically, that deal with public funds. So clarification would be great.
Dana?
According to the Department of Audit's flow chart for the training, the first question is, are you a public officer that requires training? First question on the flow chart, do you work for the government? No, not a public officer. So that's why I didn't sign up for it.
All I can tell you is what we were told in flow today. Don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, well, it's not well written.
That's the government.
Yeah.
If just one more thing, if I could, Mr. Chair, I can sum up my 8 hours of training in this sentence. Don't pay attention to what we just said. Ask your legal counsel. There it is.
Thank you, Paul. Any other board members have any? Yes, Dana.
I do. At the last WEPT meeting, we reviewed what we'd been learning in our months-long trainings on understanding pharmacy benefit management, and found out that it the fact we were considering that a change in that has resulted in negotiations with Blue Cross Blue Shield that will provide improved service, more transparency, and lower costs to members. So that's probably what we're going to do. That's probably going to be our best option. So it worked out well. And at the last meeting, WEPT instituted a new program called Wednesdays with WEPT. That was today, and I saw 2 names in that meeting along with everybody else. And it's basically for plan administrators to give some additional training, answer questions. I learned some things I didn't know because I'm not a plan administrator. Parts of the portal I had not even seen since we were looking at the beta before you guys even got it. So I'd be really interested to know what you guys thought of it too.
Well, that was my first experience in WEPT at all. So it was very informational. And I think moving forward, those Wednesdays with WEPT are going to be informational, and just getting the information out to our employees so that they're educated as well is really important.
I agree with Taylor. I do. I call them all the time and chat with them, so they're getting pretty used to me.
And the point is we do have a lot of members who aren't really engaged in that. They don't open their emails, or they don't open the letters they get that have important information in them. And so part of this is to help these guys engage them more, so it makes their jobs easier too. And just to show that the WEPT people really do care about how it's going for all the groups. So I was pretty pleased, but I said I would get some feedback from you guys tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Tana. Any other board member have a report? Jason?
We have our BOCES meeting tomorrow night. So
okay. And I skipped you, Taylor. I'm sorry. Did you have a report?
I don't have anything to report, but I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited for the growth and the challenges that come with the job. So okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Brad, I guess we're up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you can tell, we did not add to any volume in speaking with the new group. No, not everybody at the district office whispers, but for those that do whisper, you're going to have to get a lot closer to the microphone or no one will hear you. So with that, just a little feedback on a conversation earlier. There is some real critical conversation going on right now with curriculum and the curriculum success with K2, and it revolves around reading. And I would ask you to sort of pay attention to that conversation. Some of the real high flyers in the state where, let's see, the one that reported today was 80% of their third graders are reading at level. It was mentioned that that's not good enough because there's still 20% of your students that are not getting that. And so then it turned really quick to curriculum. I know from the superintendent's group and listening to them, there is a lot of concern about the overstep of state starting to dictate what curriculums are going to be used and which ones are not. Performance in or out doesn't matter. So I would ask you to watch that. The other thing that continue to working on, so it's a new start of the year, we all know that, brand new school resource officer, trying to meet the non-working MOU. So I do not have that ready for you to approve, but the attorneys do have that, and I hope to have that to you in the next couple of board meetings. The thing that I would tell you right now is, with the school resource officer, the big conversations that I've had is I need the schools to be their home base. I get that they're short-staffed and they may have to go out, but what we can't have is where we just have days where we have nobody. So I think that's working a little bit, although I do know that there are some weeks that where they are backed up. I would tell you that we will get the old-fashioned walkthroughs, but we will not have somebody on school grounds for the 8 hours that the students are here. We're going to try to work with them and try to repair that. Again, they are in similar like everybody, right? Everyone's looking for good staff, trying to keep good staff. But I do know that during our incident last Friday, the school resource officer was there not only as a school resource officer, but also in the dual kind of role with law enforcement as well. So we will try to monitor and adjust to meet the needs as we go with that. But that being a new program, what I need to let you know is it's not 8 hours every day, all day on school grounds. We're hoping that this is their home base and that they only have to leave when there's a call out. And then what we've asked is that they communicate that somehow. So we're not waiting for a resource that's not on school grounds. I apologize. That's not, I don't think, where we were 6 months ago when we made the switch, but there's been a lot of moving pieces. And with those moving pieces, we'll try to accommodate and try to just simply meet the student and the staff needs, and of course, the safety concerns that go with that.
Any questions for Brad? Jason?
So how does that affect our agreement? Because we're paying for a service that is an 8-hour day, but they're saying we're not going to get an 8-hour day.
I believe what we paid for is a third. So a third of that was the district, a third is still the city, and then no, that's not 2/3 of that would be the cities because there's no county involvement in where we were with Deb, correct?
Correct.
So the third of that, they're going to have to deliver the best they can. And if they can't, then if we need to review that agreement next year, I think that's what we would do. Not knowing exactly where the future of that is with their staffing patterns, or nor do they. I mean, I can tell you in their conversations, I think there's some frustrations there as well. So we'll try to look at that. We'll sit down and review actually what the services were rendered. Did they meet our stipulations? And then do we want to enter into an agreement with that going down the road? I would hope that, well, I guess that's my hope for us as well. I mean, you always hope that your staffing patterns improve as you go. If they were to get worse, then I think we might have to look at some other options as well. I don't even know what that means, though. I mean, really, you're looking for a school resource officer. You're looking for an officer that can do dual roles. So it's not like I'm going to go out and hire a police officer on my own, not for $20,000 with benefits. But I think they are aware of our concerns. We will meet, we meet with them daily, but it will be the focus of the crisis team meeting going forward. Are we better off or are we not? What coverages are there? What spots need more coverage?
Yeah, because I mean, I think we owe it to the stakeholders that, like I said, we entered into an agreement of this, and now they're, and rightfully so. I mean, obviously staffing is a big issue, but that was my big concern going into this, was foreseeing that and having that be the problem. Is now we're only going to have them once or twice a week at best. And our stakeholders, when we went into this agreement, was we are going to have a resource officer in our district to watch, to do resource officer stuff.
Untrue. In that case, I'm not so sure that if let's say Kelly is called out, you know, what would be the chance of somebody else covering? I know they're not the trained school resource officer and they may not meet the MOU, but when it comes to safety, I'm more worried about safety than I am memorandums of understanding.
Sean?
So it's just a city deal. Have they talked about maybe teaming up with the county deputy sheriffs, stuff like that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I probably wouldn't be part of those conversations.
Any other questions for Brad? Thank you, Brad. We'll move on to future agenda items. We'll have new staff here on September 12th, which is our next board meeting.
Which is a Tuesday.
So. And I have a suggestion or a request. Mallow Camp starts on the 27th.
I'm not that fun, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry.
I am.
Okay.
Because I got asked to.
Then it does.
Huh?
This month.
Next month.
Yes.
And our meetings is on the 27th. And I guess I was asking if we could move that meeting either to Mallow Camp or for the fifth graders, or move it back to Tuesday on the 26th.
Mr. Chair. Just so you know, I mean, I will go to Mallow for the meeting, but I do think as short as staff is Mallow is becoming as well. I would speak for Mrs. Holmes and staff. If we pull staff away for the meeting, it's going to create a shortage with them in their programming.
It would just be the board meeting. We wouldn't have to have, but anyway.
Talking about the people that have to get kids that have to get ready to shower and go to bed. Me.
Well, they wouldn't have to come to our, never mind. Just a suggestion, if we could back it up to Tuesday on the 26th. You'll be gone the 27th? Wednesday. Yep. So we don't have to decide tonight. It's just something I would like to put on a future agenda item. Jason?
Would that cause any problems with public access or anything like that if we had it? Okay. I just didn't know if there was anything like
if we did it, you mean if we did it up there?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
We used to do it up in the, I don't know what the little play. We take it up in a different room. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's a very productive meeting, to tell you the truth, but if you've never been to Mallow Camp with the fifth graders, it's an option to see what goes on just for a little bit, if nothing else. But anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty
well.
But if you notify people in that,
as long as I notify them. It'd be the one meeting of the year that's not Zoom.
Well, we could do it on the 26th, Tuesday night too, if that works for everybody. I mean, I don't care. Just something for next meeting. Any other future agenda items? We don't have anything under discussion items. Is there? Yes, Jason?
Mr. Chair, if I could back up the recognitions, I'd like to recognize Don Stevenson for the jump start for the sixth grade, cooking burgers and hot dogs, and was very hot that day. So he did an outstanding job. Okay. And thanks to Kelly, I think is who, or Deckers, who.
Yes, if we're going backwards, I would do the same thing. You know, Pinnacle Bank did the same thing for staff on the 17th. They purchased the hamburgers and the hot dogs and also supplied the buns. And then Pinnacle Bank, Amy and Chad. Eric. Oops, sorry. They cooked and it wasn't much cooler that day either. But I would also recognize you for, I believe you were you the helper? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Seeing nothing else, meeting adjourned.
Good, move on. And you don't have anything? Okay, I'll call to order the meeting of the Eastern Weston County Rec Board. Approval of the agenda.
Second.
I got a motion to approve, properly seconded the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motions. Any recognitions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to visitor comments. Seeing none, move on to action items, consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
I have a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I don't have any old business and I don't believe there's any new business. Nothing discussion.
Oh, sorry. Nobody on there. Do I have to? Yeah. Oh, okay. So anyway, Brian Knight called me and was very grateful for the steps that we ordered. So he really likes it and has used it. So I forgot about that.
Perfect. So. Good. Seeing nothing else, I adjourn.
Okay.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today, and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.